So, hello everyone. I'm here at UK Hypnosis Convention HQ, where everything is white and there's writing on the walls. That thumb. But today I'm joined by James Brown over there. I'm joined by James Brown. Yay! Welcome,
Hey.
James.
Hello, how you doing?
So I'm going to be really honest with everybody. There are numerous reasons for James being the first of our speakers to be interviewed for the 2019 convention. But mainly it's because I'm so utterly new to the world of using Zoom. As people may have seen in my previous video, James happens to be a close friend of mine. He doesn't really act like it, but he's a close friend of mine. And it means he kind of won't mind if I cock things up while I'm getting to grips with it all in this festival. So for those of you that are not familiar with James, he's been performing for over 20 years, regarded as one of the leading close-up magicians, achieving a prestigious title of Close-Up Magician of the Year by the Magic Circle. Over the past couple of decades, James has been in demand to consult on several high-profile TV shows, as well as lecturing worldwide on performance, skills, confidence, and of course, hypnosis. And at this year's convention, James's lecture is going to be demonstrating and talking about how powerful inductions can be when you are not tied to a formulaic process. So James, you're going to be teaching about the ability to create inductions rather than relying on a one-size-fits-all approach. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Right, yeah, so inductions have always fascinated me as a performer in various ways. Many years ago, you and I did a couple of seminars together with rapid inductions, and I always found it fascinating, the idea that people always look for the ritual within one of these inductions, and part of my fun when I was doing the thing with you was making stuff up, throwing in stuff that I knew was utterly irrelevant and did nothing.
Freestyling.
Yeah, but also very purposefully adding stuff in which had the feel of being important, but just wasn't important at all. So I was testing back then this idea of, well, you know, what can you add in? What can you take out? What really makes this stuff work? Yeah. And I found that the less constrained you are to not just a set of rituals in the induction themselves, but actually the less you're constrained with a set of beliefs about what's going on at that point, the better. Do you see what I mean? I think this idea of just going, right, it must work because of this reason, and that's it, and I need to follow this protocol, A, B, C, D, and it closes the door on far more people than you'd imagine. And I think that was the big thing for me as a performer, watching all the other, not I say all the other, that sounds like terribly egotistical, but a lot of the other hypnotists following a sort of rules and regulations within the way that they did things, but only getting a proportion of the audience responding. Right,
yeah. Because you mentioned also that it's important to choose the induction for the participant.
Yeah, exactly. So whereas just having this one size fits all, I started to think about the idea of, well, maybe my job wasn't just to filter people to one way of doing it. Maybe my job was actually to find out what way works best for you, which I know is something that a lot of hypnotherapists do. The big take-home message that I want people to get, if you like, from this will be inductions are really useful sometimes on a theatrical level, if nothing else. They are incredibly beneficial, but not to have such belief and faith and trust in them that you get bogged down, because actually my experience is also that sometimes the person requires no induction, that actually the whole thing, even therapeutically, I know that there's probably a lot of cases where somebody would walk through a hypnotherapist's door and the hypnotherapist would do an induction and do all of their work, when actually they didn't really need an induction. What they needed is somebody to talk to and a few ideas in their head played around with, a few tools to walk away with. But we're so fixated in the, right, we must do, it has to start with a build up, a pre-talk, suggestion, deepeners, and we get lost in that, I think. So hopefully this is going to free everybody up, and you'll walk away feeling invigorated and excited. And I'm going to kind of throw lots of ideas in people's directions as well.
I mean, I'm excited because every now and then, you say things that I find quite a challenge to my own process and my own views. But one of the things that always sticks in my mind is from many years ago, when you and I used to do the geek meetups, the hypnosis meetups in Bournemouth, and we go into a pub afterwards, and I'd be sort of stood at the bar discussing theory with people, and I turn around and you'd be sort of chatting in the ear of some guy whose hand was stuck to a fruit machine, and wherever we went, there would be people experiencing hypnotic phenomena, and you were doing. And we were trying to work out, well, where was that induction, and what was that induction that was going on there, and it made for some really interesting perspective for me, and it would probably be remiss of me not to mention that in recent years, as well as being a very popular figure at the UK Hypnosis Convention, there have been some shenanigans, including a man lying on the floor in a corridor at your feet.
Yeah,
I think a little bit of controversy here and there.
Yeah.
Now that I'm kind of at the reins of this particular event, it's important that I know, and probably other people know, whether we should expect more of that this year.
I wouldn't put it past me. You have to understand. None of this ever gets planned.
No, right, okay. No. I've worked closely with you. I know that.
Yeah. So the reality is, yeah, probably. Do you know what? I sometimes I think that people need permission to question and challenge things, because actually our social makeup as human beings, wanting to be heard creatures, means that we tend not to, unless we see somebody else doing it, unless we get permission. And I'm kind of lucky in a way that while I've got really great connections to this community, we all know I'm not in it. Not really, not in the same way that means that, my livelihood is not on the line if I say something out of place at a convention.
Yeah.
Nothing bad happens to me, even if sort of, people were standing outside with picket, like placards, if people inside the room were so angry with what I was saying, they were just ripping up the chairs and hurling them at the stage. The outcome would still realistically be, it would make no real great difference on my life. So I'm in the luxury of being able to say things that are controversial, that are challenging, but I also think they need to be said. I really do believe that they need to be said. Now, I mean, this year I'm talking about inductions, but I'm still going to be undoubtedly having a little bit of a pop at the people who see themselves as gurus and all sorts of other bits and pieces, just because I think it fits within that category. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've fallen for it myself. I've sold inductions in the past, and I would sell an induction again, but I wouldn't do it now in any sense as if it in and of itself did anything of any value at all, really. And if you change anything, like, it'll matter. And that's really my point, that we've got to be careful not to fall for the rituals and all the other bits and pieces. They do something, they have a purpose, they have a benefit. Human brains love rituals, but we just need to think a little bit more and be willing to let go of a few assumptions and dare I say a bit of magical thinking, because given the choice, most of us, if we're really truly honest, we'd rather it was magic than science.
Well, yeah, and for people that want to have this debate, I can see James trying to cajole me into this debate here, but that's not going to happen in this particular call. Because
He's learning.
For me personally, I see value and benefit in standardization in order to be able to apply some scientific thinking from time to time. But you're quite right.
I'd agree with that. Don't get me wrong. I would agree with that.
Yeah, whenever I've been out and whenever we've been to places, and you and I have been either teaching together or doing things together, the wow factor and the astonishment factor that I talk about, using astonishment as a way to drive your business, for example, is something that you have in absolute abundance. And it's one of the reasons that I'm such a big fan of your work, even if we don't always necessarily agree on everything.
We don't have to. That's the great thing about viewpoint diversity.
Exactly. We're still friends, right? At least we make out we are, right? And so when it comes to creation, when it comes to inductions, James is going to be talking about being creative, making your own, and there's always a huge amount of takeaway.
Being attentive. That would be my number one takeaway from anybody listening or watching this would be, really think about attentiveness. Think about how attentive you are, and because you can learn so much, and it will steer how you think and what you do so much more. And ultimately I learned that weirdly from being a pickpocket, being attentive. That's what gets you in. Yeah.
Awesome. So come to the UK Hypnosis Convention. Let James steal your watch. Come learn stuff. Go buy tickets, read about James's presentation over at the UK Hypnosis Convention website, ukhypnosisconvention.co.uk. Thank you, James. Really looking forward to seeing you again in November. I'll be back. I'm going to be back with another video next week. Our next one is going to be with keynote speaker Anthony Jacquin. I'll be back then. Many thanks. Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay.